So this is Senator Josh Hawley. Guys, bear with me on this because
thank you, Mr. Chair.
I actually think Ted Sarandos makes a great points. He makes great points. Hawley makes great points, but sometimes I think Hawley is a complete moron here, and we'll get into it. But let's go through this. I think you guys are going to enjoy this quite a lot. So, Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos, he's being questioned before Congress because he's trying to do this deal where he buys Warner Brothers, and so he was asked to come and speak before Congress. Hawley gets a chance and wants to ask him about all the trans stuff with children. But before getting to that point, he brings up some other points that we're going to get into, and I think it's pretty important and worth talking about, especially if you're a filmmaker in the film industry. You definitely want to know what's going on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for calling this hearing. Welcome to the witnesses. Mr. Sarandos, if I could just start with you, let's continue to talk a little bit about the labor impacts here, if we could. How many U.S.-based employees does Netflix currently employ, do you know?
About 10,000.
Yeah, what about in production roles?
Well, it's a fluid number, but we've had about 155,000 production jobs.
How about now?
On our originals. At any given time, I don't know the number exactly, sir. I can follow back.
Okay, so he's asking, this is important. He's asking about labor. How many jobs does Netflix create? So with the company, about 10,000, and then production jobs, that varies just from case to case. This is important because Hawley should know that each film, each director, each actor, each production is its own separate business. So it's not directly the Netflix itself is not hiring individual cast members, directors, that sort of thing. They're funding the production of these movies which run as a separate organization, and it's not directly Netflix related. So.
With your staff, though.
Warner Brothers, how many U.S. production jobs?
I don't have the exact number, but it would be, I would think, in the 8,000 range.
Okay. Here's my question. If this merger goes through, what's your projection about the amount of domestic production, say 2 years from now? Is it going to be static? Is it going to decline?
Our production is going to increase.
Domestic production.
Employment. Is going to increase. Most of our production is domestic, and it will continue to increase. We've recently forecast our content spend, independent of this deal, to grow to $20 billion.
First off, holy cow, that's a lot of money. $20 billion? $20 billion for production? Listen, you're not doing something right. I'm just going to say it. You're not doing something right if your production has to grow to that level. And because with all the technology you have nowadays, the ability for pretty much a small team of people to actually produce a really great cinematic production, the cost of productions they should be going down. As technology increases, and AI and all that sort of stuff, they should be going down. So the fact that $20 billion, and I just don't see that volume of output as you would expect from Netflix on that thing. So
that's a combination of licensing, producing. Now those licensing dollars compel production as well. That's why it's hard to get an exact number.
That's what I was talking about when he said those licensing dollars compel production, which means if he licenses a project from a filmmaker, that filmmaker takes that licensing money and then goes and makes another movie. So that licensing deal compels the production. So it's hard. It's a hard number for an organization, a platform, to really be able to answer. It's like, how many people have started a business and have a successful business because of Facebook? Well, a lot of people have started a business because of Facebook, and they have a successful business because of Facebook. But it's not exactly an easy answer. It's not exactly an easy way to get.
Let me show you the data here about U.S. production recently.
This is amazing flop by Hawley. He had an opportunity here. I want you guys to see if you notice this.
It's the red line here starting from in 2021. You can see it is pretty much straight downward. There's been massive shift in production, as I think as Senator Schiff was alluding to just a moment ago, massive shift in.
So 2020, obviously, down here is COVID. And then after COVID, it sprang up, and then it's just gone to crap. However,
production overseas to other foreign jurisdictions, leaving the United States. So will you commit to increasing domestic United States production and domestic United States production jobs? Did I hear you just say you would?
Senator Hawley, absolutely. It's in our business plan. It's in our long-term operating DNA. I will point out, sir, respectfully.
Here it is. Here it is.
That chart is Los Angeles.
Yeah, but it is Los Angeles, but if you look at the data, it is reflective. This reflects all of U.S. production. U.S. production is not going up, right?
But some of these jobs have moved.
He's looking. Okay, so Senator Josh Hawley, I believe is he's conservative, conservative senator. He's looking. He has a chart of production jobs in Los Angeles. And he has a prime opportunity to basically use this as a point to say, oh, Los Angeles, LA, Hollywood is destroying the entire film industry. Like, he has the opportunity to do that. But he's not doing that. Because he pulled up this chart and saying, look, this is domestic production. And Ted Sarandos rightfully calls it out. Because I'm sure if anybody knows how hard it is to film in California, it's Ted. And so Ted calls this out. And Hawley argues with him.
These jobs have moved to but the overall numbers are going down. And this is exactly the concern of labor. And without objection, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to enter into a statement for the record from the Teamsters, who have major concerns.
So he just goes, yeah, but it's the same. And it's...
about this deal, as does, frankly, pretty much every segment of labor, Mr. Sarandos. And what they all say is they're.
So here we go. I want to, let's go back. I want to make sure you guys understand what's happening here. So Hawley is talking about the Teamsters, which is the film unions, and how they're worried about the amount of production jobs that have gone down. And so if you have Netflix and Warner Brothers merging together, the amount of jobs are going to be even less. So that's what's happening here.
Who have major concerns about this deal, as does, frankly, pretty much every segment of labor, Mr. Sarandos. And what they all say is they're worried that you're going to cut residuals, which is effectively payments. You're going to cut production jobs. So let's just go through a few commitments here. Will you commit to using union labor for all domestic shoots?
Whoa. Whoa. Right? Like, okay. First off, what's so crazy about this to me, and Senator Josh Hawley, if you happen to be listening, I doubt you are, but if you happen to be listening and you'd like to have a conversation about this, the reason that chart behind you is going down is because of the unions. Like, this is very simple, very clear cut. That the jobs are going down because of unions. Wall Street Journal just had an article about this just the other day, and they were talking about how because of so Atlanta went and put all this money into building up what they called the Hollywood of the South, right? So Atlanta put all this money into all these studios. Tyler Perry's there, a bunch of studios are there, Marvel films there, like just Disney films. So many big productions film in the Atlanta area. And so what happened was, and the reason that happened was because the state of Atlanta was giving all this sort of tax incentives for the budgets, right? And so what the unions found out about all this money they were getting from tax incentives, and they demanded more money. And so now, because a lot of the money are going to unions, it's not staying in the state. A lot of the people who come to Atlanta to work, they're working for 1 or 2 gigs, then they're leaving and they're going back to California or wherever they live. But ultimately, it's not. The unions have sucked up so much of that tax incentive money that it's actually been a negative economic impact on the area because the studios are paying the unions. They're not able to reinvest their money into more studios and all sorts of different things to really help sustain that Atlanta film culture. And so Josh Hawley, the conservative Republican from Missouri, with the stats behind him that shows the production jobs going down because of union rules, is asking Ted Sarandos now to commit to more union gigs. This is insane. It doesn't make any sense at all. And it's crazy. And it shows that Hawley doesn't understand what's going on here. He wants to be a pro-union guy, but he also wants to be more domestic productions kind of guy. And you can't have both. If you want the most amount of jobs, production jobs in the country the world has ever seen, you have to reduce the amount of unions. Now, this is going to come together again when we get the LGBTQ stuff.
We do use union labor.
Will you commit to using it in the future for all of your domestic shoots if this deal goes through?
Senator Hawley, we do use, this is the most unionized industry in America, and
it's the most unionized industry in America that somehow, for some reason, is struggling from a labor shortage.
use union labor on all.
Not a labor shortage, but a work shortage for the
our production.
And you're going forward. I'm looking for a commitment.
You have my.
He's looking for a commitment. Hey, you see the way this graph is trending? I'm asking you to continue that trend by adding more union.
Will you commit to a 45-day or longer theatrical release window for major Warner Brothers films?
Senator Hawley, I just said that I would do that under oath, so yes.
Good. And will you commit to fairly compensating your workers in the industry with residual payments?
Well,
this is a completely different side gig, but the residual payment discussions comes down to the unions, right? So the union, because it's not like Netflix, an independent filmmaker, they make this agreement. The guy that did Sinners was able to do this, by the way. He was able to basically claim ownership of the IP for Sinners, and he gets a 2-film deal, and the studio owns the IP for a certain amount of time, a short amount of time, and then it reverts back to the director and writer of that film. And so that on an individual basis, you can do that. You can make that decision to, hey, these are the deals we're going to cut. But when you're working with unions, you can't make those sort of deals. That's a massive problem. So Hawley, the things that he wants Ted Sarandos to do cannot be done with the unions. Now, Ted has his hands tied, unfortunately, to the unions. As he says, this is the most unionized career in America. So he has to kind of like bend the knee to everything that the unions are fighting and arguing for. But all of these questions that Hawley are asking him could be solved by getting rid of the unions. This is really important. This is insanely critical.
Our top of market payment has been Netflix business philosophy since we started operating over 25 years
listen,
ago.
What you have been routinely accused of compressing and reducing residuals, it's one of the biggest objections to labor to this deal. So let's see if you can lay that to rest today. Will you commit to full residuals?
Senator Hawley,
what even does full residuals mean? I don't think Ted can properly answer this question, because residuals should be a film by film basis and a property by property basis. Like that, this idea of, well, will you commit to residuals, full residuals, just broadly over all your films? It's crazy. Any businessman worth their salt would never do that. That's like, imagine you're sitting before Congress, and Senator Hawley said, "Hey, will you commit to paying your employees $100 an hour? Full stop. All your employees $100 an hour." No, you're not gonna answer that question. Now, are there employees that you have that might be worth $100 an hour? Yeah, and we could deal with that employee on a case-by-case basis. But you can't do it. You can't just do it from the floor here and just a broad oversweeping statement.
I would like to tell you this is a very complicated answer because we prepay.
That's usually on the way to no. That's usually a way of saying no. So
I don't think Hawley knows anything about this business whatsoever. Most conservatives don't. But this is He does not look good.
For yes.
Senator Hawley, I understand this is not a yes or no answer because
It kind of is, though.
it kind of
No, it's
isn't
not.
because and we were going to sit down with
It's
the
actually
unions.
not.
You're disappointing me.
Starting in the next few days, sir, we're sitting down with the unions.
So he's in the middle of having negotiations with the unions, and then Hawley wants a statement on record that he's going to provide full residuals to the unions. He's forcing the unions to have an upper hand in negotiations here. It's really crazy work on Ted's part. And sorry, not on Ted's part, but on Josh Hawley's part. It's really crazy work on Josh Hawley's part.
For new contract talks that start actually in 3 days.
That's a complicated, long no. I would really hope it would be yes.
Okay. Are you asking me to commit to residuals in the traditional form? Because I don't think that applies in many cases. That's why I'm getting there.
All right. Well, I think you've got some work to do on that, Mr. Sarandos, and I would hope that you'd reconsider your position. Before my time expires, I want to ask you about something else related to
All right. So now we're going to get another issue.
children. Why is it that so much of Netflix content for
And this is where actually Sarandos looks pretty terrible. But also, the unions come back into play. Hawley doesn't know this, but
children promotes a transgender ideology? Almost half of your content for I'm talking about minor children now. I'm not talking about teenagers. Minor children promotes a transgender ideology agenda. I was just looking at the data here from your various series. And what concerns me is just 2 days ago, a jury in New York awarded a former transitioner $2 million because she said that her psychologists and others pressured her into, they pushed on her an ideology that proved to be extremely detrimental. I'm sure you know that in the UK, the National Health Service in the UK has said that they're not going to perform transgender surgeries or any longer so-called gender-affirming care for minors, including in counseling, because it is so incredibly detrimental. Our own HHS has come.
This is a great question, by the way. I would love for Ted to be able to answer this question. All of this talking
for similar findings this past year. Yet if you turn on Netflix, you'll find that an enormous amount, and I say this as a parent with 3 young children, an enormous amount of your children's programming has this ideology and agenda in it.
Okay. So, all right. So look, this is a problem. We know Netflix is trash. They LGBTQ everything. They trans everything, even the children's program for, very young children, all the way down to nursery school. It's really bad, really terrible. And so Ted Sarandos, now he gets to ask this question to Ted Sarandos. And Ted
is this
Sarandos
an advocacy position for Netflix? Is this an ideological commitment you have? I mean, why is this?
Senator Hawley, Netflix has no political agenda of any kind.
First off, there's no neutrality. Netflix obviously has a political agenda. They made a deal with the Obama administration, and Obama, I believe, have equity in the Obamas have equity in Netflix. So yes, they do have a political position. I guarantee you they do. The only if I was Ted Sarandos here and you wanted to hold that case that you don't have a political position, you should say, have you listened? Like, we had Joe Rogan do comedy. We had Dave Chappelle do comedy. We stood with Dave Chappelle against the transgender sort of movement. And, it still creates a problem because he's still making the trash for kids. But I know why he's making the trash for kids. Assuming, I mean, obviously Ted Sarandos he's Ted Sarandos. So, I'm not saying that he has a moral fiber in his body. However, there's a reason.
I would tell you that.
Well, then why?
I want to save it for last because I want to bring up the
The children's program is so full of this highly sexualized, highly controversial agenda. I don't understand it. It seems strange to me.
Respectfully, sir, it's because it's inaccurate. We have millions of hours of children's programming.
You're saying it's not there. You don't have trans. You don't feature trans characters, trans storylines, trans themes. It's not in your programming.
I'm saying we feature a wide variety of stories and programs to meet a wide variety of people.
It's a terrible answer by Ted Sarandos, by the way.
Why is almost half of it? Why does almost half of your children's program feature this
Why are there so many bots in my Kick chat right now? Go away,
Highly
bots.
controversial, highly sexualized material. That just seems strange to me. It can't possibly be a reflection of the population.
Senator Hawley, I don't have any idea where that number would come from or what that would be. I don't believe that's been your personal experience, but I can't speak to that.
Well, what do you mean you don't think it's been my personal experience? You don't think that I monitor what my children watch on your... Here's what I tell you what my personal experience is since you bring it up. My personal experience is that my 3 children, I can't let them watch anything they want on Netflix. I can't let them watch anything on Netflix unless I preview it because I don't have...
By the way, that's the right answer. The dads are supposed to be the censors. The dads are the ones that are supposed to be previewing content for their children. Hawley's right on
confidence in what's on your platform. I don't know what they're going to encounter, and I tell you what, I don't want my kids being pushed an agenda about their sexuality or gender identity when I have not had the opportunity first to discuss it with them and to form them in that. And I, frankly, on behalf of parents around the country, it offends me that Netflix is pushing this content at parents in what seems to be a very coordinated, thought through, planned out agenda.
I do wish there was more back and forth between Ted and Hawley here, and Hawley wasn't using this as a podium because this is a really great opportunity to really get to the bottom of it.
In a way that, frankly, I think undermines parents, certainly undermines me and my wife. We have to watch every show beforehand before we can let our kids watch it. Now, I don't know. That seems pretty concerning to me. I know you make a gob of money on it, and maybe that's the answer. But it just seems to me that it's a disservice to the parents of this country, particularly given what's happening with our youth on this subject.
So, Senator, if I may answer, like I said, we have millions of hours of content on Netflix at any given time. We have state-of-the-art tools for you to manage those choices for your children and to block any title that you might be offended by for any reason.
Yeah. You still put it up there. But the tools are not the censor. The father's the censor. But yeah, I mean, this guy's obviously pushing an agenda. I want to show you why. This is the Motion Picture Association of America, massive pro-union organization. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger for everyone. Okay. So this is their standards for representation and inclusion. The Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Science Representation and Inclusion standards for Oscars eligibility in the Best Picture category are designed to encourage equitable representation on and off screen to better reflect the diverse global population. So obviously the TV shows for children aren't part of the Oscars. But the same sort of thinking it's throughout. It is throughout the entire Hollywood process. The unions affect everything. So submitting confidential Academy inclusion standards form raise and meeting you got to meet 2 out of the 4 standards that will be required for the film to be eligible for Best Picture consideration. In addition, the film must complete the Best Picture expanded theatrical run criteria to qualify. So there has to be a theatrical run as well. But a film can achieve this standard by meeting the criteria on at least one of the following areas: lead or significant supporting actors from underrepresented racial or ethnic groups. At least one of the lead actors or significant supporting actors submitted for Oscar consideration from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group. This may include African American, Black, East Asian, Hispanic, Indigenous, Middle Eastern, Pacific Islander, South Asian, and Southeast Asian. General ensemble cast. At least 30% of all actors not submitted for Oscar consideration are from at least 2 underrepresented groups that may include women, racial or ethnic group, LGBTQ+, or people with cognitive or physical disabilities who are deaf or hard of hearing. So 30% of all your Oscar nominations have to come under these 2, have to form at least 2 representative groups. So you can have a deaf person and a black person. You can have a woman and a black person. I mean, like you got, you can have LGBTQ. You have a gay trans person, and you meet both of them, which is exactly what they did for Orange Is the New Black and some of the other stuff they do. But this is why. By the way, this is why every time you see a Netflix a Netflix show. This is why there's always, and I believe this is the same for Emmys. So in order to be included for the Emmys, in order to be included and recognized by the Academy, all these sort of things, you have to have these sort of LGBT narratives with you. Cameron says Hawley normally performs well when he operates in the realm of in his realm of no, or in his wheelhouse. Yeah, Cameron, I can tell he obviously doesn't know what's going on here, because people in the know, like, this guy is like completely off the charts. I'm gonna send him a message on X, by the way, and maybe he'll reach out. I doubt, but I'm gonna send him a message, because somebody needs to tell him, hey, dude, this is not right. Let's see. Let's go back to this. So for the Oscars, women, LGBTQ, the main storyline or subject matter has to be about women, racial, ethnic groups, LGBTQ, or people with cognitive disabilities. The theme or narrative of the film is centered on underrepresented groups. So you can have a general ensemble cast with a 30%, but then you also have to have a main storyline subject matter dealing with some of these. So this is why whenever you see the best picture and you're like, oh my gosh, they're also politically charged. Why aren't there just good stories in the best films anymore? Well, this is why, because they have to have these. And then your creative leadership and department heads. A film will achieve this standard by meeting the criteria in one of the following areas. At least 2 of the following creative leadership positions in department heads: casting director, cinematographer, composer, costume designer, blah, 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 blah. Must be someone from an underrepresented racial or ethnic group. Underrepresented groups must include women, racial. So it's just the other things. And then in other key roles. So this is a union. The Motion Picture Association of America, the recording industry, and then the Emmy. They're all unions. Sorry, I noticed that I wasn't sharing the screen when I was showing you this, but I want you guys you can come back to it. I want you guys to see that this is LGBTQ race diversity, or LGBTQ race and diversity, LGBTQ race and diversity. Standard audience development. To achieve a standard D, the film must meet the criterion, director representation, and marketing publicity. So even in your marketing, your publicity, just everything has to include this LGBTQ diversity stuff. So it's not, I can't go there because I'm not. Okay. So again, so Josh Hawley, he's like, are you going to hire more unions? It's very important that you hire more unions. Oh, also, why is all this LGBT stuff on your platform? The unions. Why aren't you hiring more jobs domestically? It's the unions. Josh Hawley, do you hear me? Like, you can't demand more union gigs and then be mad about the consequences of those union gigs. It just doesn't make any sense. You got to stop. Josh, give me a call. Fly me out to DC. We'll have a very long, thorough conversation on why all this nonsense is happening in the Hollywood space. I think that would be great. I think it needs to happen.